Hello, everybody, and welcome to the FPL Show. A very special edition of the FPL Show. You can see Kelly and I turned up in the same clothes. I'm the one on the left, by the way.
You've forgotten your heels.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I'm the one on the right. How confusing. Anyway.
This is all very confusing, isn't it? We may not have sorted our am I going to get this joke right? Our outfits out right.
Right.
But we're going to sort out FPL outfits. I still didn't quite execute that right, did I?
No, that's perfect.
I had about half an hour to think about that and still got it wrong.
We'll get it right when we do it live. Let's have a look at what's coming up in the show today. All right, look at that. Reece James and David De Gea. That's the only time you'll be seeing James with De Gea on this show, sadly. Who wants a piece of Reece? Chelsea have a double coming up, so we'll be checking out the Chelsea assets to target with Reece James high on the list. As for De Gea, well, Man United also have the double coming up, so we'll be asking whether players like De Gea are worth taking a punt on, despite United's dire form.
Mohamed Salah was the third most transferred out player in Gameweek 33 and he made those sellers pay with a 19-point haul. We'll be looking ahead to the Merseyside derby and assessing whether Mo is a must-have or whether Klopp could tinker with his team ahead of the Champions League semi-final. And Harry Kane there as well. A few people are selling him too, so we'll be asking, is he essential for the upcoming game weeks?
Excellent. And answering those questions and more are our experts this week, who are Holly Shand of The Athletic and Gianni Battici of Fancy Football Fest, offering top-notch and top-knot analysis
Very good.
this week. Excellent, lovely to see you. But Holly, you're doing pretty well right now with 5 rounds to go, is that right?
Yeah, not bad at all, but I have blown all of my chips early, so it's a case of trying to stay with everyone else that's playing chips right now.
What's your OR?
About 58k, I think, after tonight's games.
Pretty good.
That's pretty nice. What about you, Jenny? How's things going? Not life-wise, FPL-wise, of course.
The top knot's doing all right. Yes. I'm all doing all right. I'm on a slight red arrow off a free hit, which isn't great.
Tell me, why did you play your free hit? Why did you decide that was a good week?
I thought I could go big on Man United against Norwich, and I didn't back United in the second fixture. You know, I had Ronaldo, that paid off, but Sancho, Bruno didn't. So, yeah, small red arrow, but still 15k OR.
OK, well, I'll tell you what, should we take a look back on Double Game Week 33, which has just finished, and take a look at some of the key performers?
Game Week 33 has just wrapped up with Burnley's victory over Southampton. Let's look back on some of the top performers of the round, starting off with a couple of players who were in action at Turf Moor. Fraser Forster, first of all, who was on the wrong end of the 2-0 scoreline this time round, but had the clean sheet against Arsenal at the weekend. A bunch of saves this evening as well. 12 points he picked up against the
Arsenal and Burnley.
Oh, against Arsenal and Burnley. So the two of them put together. Sorry, this is just coming through. So these numbers are live. So 12 points for Fraser Forster. And the other player we should probably have a look at is Connor Roberts as well, who was on the right side of that result and also got 12 points, actually, funnily enough, against Saints. Are Burnley now, are they better options after that shock decision to remove Sean Dyche and bring in me and Michael Jackson?
Yeah, they're looking a little bit safe at the back. And under Sean Dyche, they're actually conceding more goals than we expected. And since Sean Dyche has gone, conceded 1 to West Ham and then a clean sheet again this evening, the likes of Roberts and most of the other Burnley defenders really affordable. Some nice fixtures and still a double to come. I think if you're looking for a budget option, if you're on a wild card, a Burnley defender isn't a bad option.
OK. What about Fraser Forster, Holly?
I think there's just a lack of consistency there, and Southampton haven't got as much to play for as Burnley have right now, so I'd be more interested in backing the Burnley defence over the remaining 5 game weeks.
OK, well, the highest scorer of the game week, and do you know what, I'm going to be honest, I'm quite glad that Az isn't on the show today, because Az did bring in Bruno Guimaraes and captained him, so congratulations to Az if you are watching. 20 points for the Newcastle man, 4.9 of your fantasy £1 million. Exceptional value. What a game week from him, Gianni.
Yeah, we didn't see it coming, as did. Not many did. Out of nowhere, kind of box-to-box midfielder, hasn't had many goal involvement since he's been at Newcastle, but the fixtures were there. 2 games at St James's Park, and many of us did invest in Newcastle. Chris Wood, the defenders, Dubravka, but not many went to this guy, and he's proven to be a really good option.
Yeah, brave managers, and of course it paid off. 4.9 million, as I said, that's a really nice price point in our midfields. I'm going to be honest, I'm on a wild card at the moment, and I'm looking for a midfielder in around that price bracket. Is he the best option, or do you think there's some slightly cheaper, better ones?
He's had more attacking returns in the last few days than he has done over the course of many seasons in his career. So I think there's probably better options at that price point.
OK, well, of course, Game Week 34 starts in what? A day or so, so not long to go. Let's take a look now at another huge game week. It's another double game week, isn't it? Here's what's coming up in double game week 34.
Saturday's early kickoff is a big game in the race for Champions League places. Arsenal taking on Man United at the Emirates, with the Gunners looking to follow up that impressive victory midweek over Chelsea. United, meanwhile, looking to recover from their dismal performance away at Anfield on Tuesday. Manchester City can go 4 points clear of Liverpool if they defeat Watford on Saturday. They have won 14 straight games against the Hornets' mind and scored 20 goals in Watford's last 4 visits. Elsewhere, Norwich host Newcastle as Norwich fight for their Premier League survival, and Spurs travel to Brentford as they look to hold on to 4th place.
On Sunday, we have Brighton versus Southampton, Burnley against Wolves, and a London derby at Stamford Bridge as Chelsea host West Ham. But the standout clash that day is, of course, the Merseyside derby, with both teams desperately seeking 3 points for very different reasons. Monday then sees Crystal Palace face Leeds, and Game Week 34 is rounded off with 2 Premier League giants going head-to-head: Manchester United against Chelsea at Old Trafford.
Those are the headlines. What's the deadline? Well, you've got to get your teams in by 11 o'clock UK time on Saturday morning. It's vital. Some really committed watch tapping there. Crikey, look at Georgina go.
Georgina's going
it's
for it,
important,
isn't it?
though. Yeah,
It
11
is.
o'clock Saturday morning, Kelly.
I'm glad they understand the importance of the FPL deadline. Well, as I said before, it is a double game week for both Manchester United and Chelsea. They're going to face off as well on Thursday next week, meaning we'll have a late show once again. So let's now focus in on both of those teams. So Chelsea and Manchester United have a double game week in 34. There's going to be so much interest, isn't there, I'm sure, in Chelsea and some of their players going into this one. So let's firstly take a look at Chelsea's 2 fixtures. West Ham at home, Manchester United away. Holly, how do we feel about those fixtures, especially given the fact they've lost their last 2 at home and conceded 4 goals in both of those?
Yeah, it's not the greatest pairing on paper. I think, obviously, West Ham being still involved in Europe means that maybe their focus might be elsewhere. Manchester United's form hasn't been great either. So there's certainly promise in those fixtures, but you look at Chelsea's recent results and the lack of consistency from their defence, maybe it's goals and the attackers that we need to be going with rather than investing in the defence at the moment.
And talking of goals and attackers, one man who's very much in form, Timo Werner, he's become a returner at last. Gianni, have you got your eyes on this man? I know you watch Chelsea very closely.
Yeah, he's been brilliant, and he looks like he's pretty nailed in the team. Like, when Werner plays, Chelsea look better in front of goal. I think he brings the best out of Havertz, the best out of Mount. We see more space for Havertz and Mount when Werner stretches the pitch. The slight issue for FPL is that he's 8.6 million, which is more than the 2 midfielders who are more reliable that I've just mentioned. However, it has been slim pickings up here this season, up front. And I wonder if perhaps you've got a bit more space in your front line than perhaps you do in midfield. Therefore, Werner's an option.
4 goals in 4 games. You can't sniff at that, can you? Let's chat about the wing-backs now. One of the kind of perennial questions for people looking at Chelsea is Reece James or Marcos Alonso. Holly, where do you stand on this?
Well, Reece James has always been the favourite this season, but we've seen comments this week, haven't we, that, you know, because of the injuries that he's had, Tuchel's choosing to play him as the right-sided centre-back instead of in that wing-back position. So for me, in terms of getting attacking returns, which I think is probably more likely than the clean sheets, I think Marcos Alonso's probably got the most promise right now based on his positioning.
Yeah, Reece James actually hasn't returned in his last 5 for Chelsea. And as you were mentioning, the number of goals they've been shipping, 8 across the last 2 home fixtures. Is that a concern? Would you maybe avoid either of these?
Perhaps for those that are looking at going triple Chelsea, I think now, as Holly mentioned earlier, perhaps we are looking at double attack and 1 single defender, and it is between these guys. I still slightly do favour Reece James. I know he's been playing at right centre-back a lot, but he'll still get lots of minutes at right wing-back. And we saw earlier in the season, when he does play in that role, he gets so many shots off. And I think there's goals and assists still coming from Reece. Alonso, not so sure.
All right, some tough choices ahead, Holly. Now I'm going to ask you, Mount or Havertz? If you only took one, which would it be?
Well, I'm more of a boring FPL manager that likes consistency.
You're in the top 58k in the
nothing
world.
boring
but
about
playing
that.
safe is what gets you into these positions, James. So
Right.
for that reason, I go with Mason Mount. I feel like he's more integral to the side at the moment, so I expect that he'll see more minutes over Havertz and he'll chip away. He might go 6-6-6-6-6, whereas Havertz, you might go 10-2, 10-2, but it's Mount that I'd favour right now.
Right, Mount got 19 points the game week before this one, only 4 this time, but still pretty healthy returns. Havertz was doing well. I'm not sure whether maybe the improvement for Timo Werner is taking a little bit of the gloss off of having Havertz in your team.
Yeah, possibly, although we see them start so well together for Germany, and they click quite nicely, those two. I still think that these are both very good FPL options, and I don't think you can go wrong for going for either. But Havertz would still be my preference. He's higher up the pitch, he's playing up front, he's Chelsea's main forward. Yeah, Lukaku played against Arsenal, but Havertz needed a rest, and I think he'll be back, and I can see Havertz starting the remainder of the games left this season. So he would be my #1 Chelsea pick.
OK.
OK, interesting. Well, a few options there for you from Thomas Tuchel's side. A double game week 34 for Chelsea, and it's also going to be a double for Manchester United.
Man United, 2 wins in 9, but they have a double game week. Let's have a look at Man United's fixtures. Away at Arsenal, who've just beaten Chelsea. And then Man United themselves will be at home to Chelsea. After that, just for your info, they've got Brentford, Brighton, a blank, and then Crystal Palace. So things do get a bit easier. But whatever fixtures they got coming up, when you look at Man United and you look at their record of, 2 wins in 9 now across the competitions, do you think I'd rather not?
Yeah, exactly. And I think we've had to retrain ourselves as fantasy managers this season and not think that all double game weeks are just going to deliver huge points for any player or any team that's got a double. We need to look at the quality of the team and the form at the time and the difficulty of their fixtures before jumping in with both feet.
Before we come on to individual United players, one question. Of course, we've heard that Erik ten Hag is going to be taking over at Old Trafford. I know that Ralph Rangnick is still there in charge at the moment, but do you think that will have any impacts on Manchester United's players? Are they potentially playing now to show and impress their new manager?
Yeah, we've seen this before in lots of teams. But United have been there before as well, and we haven't necessarily seen it. You know, there's been a lot of talk about new managers at Old Trafford for a very long time. These players know there are a lot of eyes on them. Yet each week we see the same sorts of performances. So I'm not sure we see a little bit of a bounce there at all. And I'm with Holly. I don't think you commit to United at the moment.
Although you just did bring in a bunch of them, didn't you?
I did, but Norwich at Old Trafford is a slightly different proposition,
fair
right?
enough.
So you just back them to go big against Norwich. But as we saw in that fixture, even Norwich can go to Old Trafford and create lots of chances.
Yeah.
And United look like they'll concede in every game.
OK, well, let's try and put some Manchester United players to both of you and see if there's any temptation at all. Or maybe there isn't. Let's start in goal with David De Gea. He has made the second most saves of any goalkeeper in the Premier League this season, which probably, Holly, also tells you about the amount of shots Manchester United are allowing and facing. What do you think about him as an option in goal?
Well, I think given the 2 fixtures that Manchester United have got, he's going to be busy in those games. So hopefully he will rack up the save points. I think the clean sheet points are probably a little bit of a stretch. But if you were to force me to buy a Manchester United player for this game week, I think De Gea would be the one that I'd go for.
That's not the most ringing endorsement, is it? If you were to force me to bring a Manchester United player, and how do you feel about their goalkeeper, Jenny?
I was tempted on De Gea last week on the free hit, and I thought he was going to score loads of save points against Liverpool. He ended up conceding 4 goals and didn't make that many saves, and we could see the same again in this double, so again, I'd be wary.
OK.
Jenny, who did you bring in from United last time?
I went for triple United attack. I wasn't back in their defence. So I had Ronaldo, which turned out quite nicely, but then Sancho and Bruno both disappointed.
OK.
Elanga would have been the option in midfield.
And so for Sancho, I mean, looking at some of the premium midfield assets they've got, like Sancho and Fernandes, who you brought in, Rashford, who you didn't, would you be thinking about those, or what would you say to anyone who might be eyeing them up?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen glimpses from all of these guys. Like Rashford looked good at Goodison Park a couple of weeks ago, but Sancho came on against Liverpool on the left and caused Trent a few issues and looked like United's brightest spark. I think Sancho comes back into the starting 11.
Right.
He would be the one that I've looked at from an eye test point of view and gone, yeah, you look like you could be involved. You want it. You're still running hard. Sancho would be my pick.
OK, Holly, if we were to hold you down and force you with pointed sticks to select a premium midfielder for Manchester United, which would it be?
I've always been a fan of Bruno Fernandes, so
Okay.
I feel like if if someone was going to produce that moment of magic, then it'd be more likely to come from him than the others.
OK.
OK, well, if you're not too sure about investing in Manchester United, which I think is safe to say these guys aren't too sure about, let's talk about someone that maybe doesn't cost you quite as much money. Well, he definitely doesn't cost you quite as much money. You've already mentioned him, Gianni, Anthony Elanga. Would you maybe be tempted?
Yeah, I don't mind the punt on him. I mean, he's cheap, isn't he? So it's like he's not that difficult to accommodate in your team, and you're not expecting a huge amount from him. So if he does bag an attack in return, then you'll be pretty pleased with that.
4.8 for someone that's going to play for Manchester United in any other season. We'd say that's brilliant, isn't it? And it's an opportunity not to be missed. How attractive is he as an FPL option?
I mean, the manager loves him. Like, we've seen him picked ahead of Sancho. We've seen him picked ahead of Rashford. He's getting in that 11 and he's doing well. A couple of assists against Norwich. I think if you're on a wild card, you probably bring Elanga in, or you at least consider him.
So I need to bring him in?
Yeah, you'd be close to considering him among a few others like Anthony Gordon and Ramsey at Villa at a similar price point. But I think he's an option. I wouldn't be using a transfer on him.
OK, and for wildcarders, because of the fixtures after this double game week rather than the double game week?
Yeah, both. I mean, they're OK. We don't have doubles to come for United, but what you're looking for is your fifth midfielder, usually your eighth attacker, is to sit on the bench most weeks. And you don't want to be spending a huge amount of money on your bench, but you want someone that plays.
Yes.
He is playing, and he does have a double.
Perfect. OK. Very good. We're going to take a very quick break now on the FPL show, after which we're going to be focusing on the top two in the FPL, debating which assets we should be holding or selling, and checking out some budget options too. So we'll see you for that in a couple of minutes' time.
Hello, welcome back to the FPL show. It's another double game week ahead of us. We're up to double game week 34. So we're going to preview now another huge fixture taking place on Sunday. It's the Merseyside Derby. OK, so the Merseyside Derby takes place this Sunday. It's Liverpool versus Everton. Huge for both of these teams for very different reasons. We're going to focus in firstly, though, on Liverpool, because this fixture actually takes place before they resume Champions League action. They're playing Villarreal at Anfield next week. So the one fear that a lot of FPL managers will have is the potential for some squad rotation. So we've had a little look at the Liverpool players that have been rested for the Champions League knockout first legs so far this season. So as we can see there, Mo Salah, the only one that has started both of the fixtures before these sorts of games. Gianni, what does this tell you? Mo Salah's the safest pick?
Yeah, as he always has been. There's three attacking spots up for grabs at Liverpool, and we know Salah plays on the right, and then it's a bit of a lottery. Mane, sure, we expect him to play as the number 9. Diaz has done so well on the left, but as we can see, this shows us that ahead of those big games, Diaz sometimes misses out, and then we expect him to start in Europe. And look, playing Villarreal, Diaz is someone that's Spanish opposition is similar to Portuguese opposition. He's obviously played in Portugal a very long time. Wouldn't be surprised to see a Diaz benching and perhaps Jota starts instead.
Which means that all the people who got rid of Mo Salah last week, and there were a lot of them, he was, I think, the third most transferred out. Well, a lot of them must be reconsidering at this point, Holly, especially after he got 19 points.
Exactly. I mean, we were worried a little bit as Salah owners, but there was enough in the eye test and the underlying numbers to suggest that those open play goals were going to return soon. And obviously he did it in emphatic fashion, and now everyone's clamouring back for him.
So in actual fact, he's, I think, back in the top 5 for most transferred in this week after being top 3 for most transferred out last night. That's just FPL for you, isn't it? But the fixture against Everton is so appealing that even with that graphic, even with the fact that Jota and Diaz are by no means guaranteed of a start, people are going to be interested in them and Sadio Mane.
Yeah, I mean, Liverpool are going all out to try and get the title. Obviously, they need Man City to drop points, but they also need to keep applying that pressure game in, game out. And it was lovely to see their attack combining so well against Manchester United, scoring and assisting for each other as well, which is not something that we've always seen with the likes of Salah and Mane. So I think there's going to be plenty more goals that they're going to be involved in together before the end of the season.
Before we move on to Liverpool's other attackers, just a word on Sadio Mane. Gianni, because we've always favoured Mo Salah over him, and it feels like a bit of an investment to have both, but 2 in 2, and he's starting to be played as a central striker.
Yeah, and when one returns, the other's often involved. Like, these guys are linking really well. In years gone by, it's been one or the other, and you can see the competition there. Like, perhaps they don't always like assisting each other. Well, that's not true, and we've seen recently, especially when Mane plays the number 9 role, it's almost a bit like Firmino. Everything comes off him, and he's putting Salah in a lot. That
price difference as well, that's tempting. 1.5 million a difference, which, could be really useful elsewhere in your team. Have we all got Mo Salah?
Yeah.
And are any of us tempted with our free hits or wildcards that we're doing to go Sadio Mane?
I'm like Holly, I'm not a brave manager.
I think it would be a case of going with both, but when you've got the likes of Man City's form and Spurs' form as well, it makes it very tricky to go with both.
Yeah.
OK, let's take a look at another couple of Liverpool attackers. Remember the days when it was just Mo Salah, Sadio Mane, maybe Roberto Firmino? Well, of course, these two guys have kind of disrupted that a little bit, in a good way if you're a Liverpool fan. Luis Diaz and Diogo Jota. We saw on that graphic before that they do get rotated a little bit. Are you looking at either of these options? Because, like all of the Liverpool attackers, when they play, they do seem to get returns.
Yep, I think they become almost players suitable for when you're on a chip. So whether you're a short-term pick on a wild card or you're free hitting, and we think when we can second-guess the starting 11. Diaz does look to have the nod, like when everyone's fitting on a level sort of playing field, Diaz seems to get the pick in the big games. So we saw against United he started, in the FA Cup semi-final against City Diaz started, played well, returns in both those games. So I'm thinking around when they perhaps double later in the season, that might be when you jump on someone like Diaz. Such good value, similar output to Mane.
Jota came in, didn't he, and kind of disrupted that front three a little bit. Now Luis Diaz has also come in and done the same. Which of these two do you prefer, Holly?
I'd want both of them in every game that they play. The unfortunate thing is you never know which one's going to play out. I do really like what I've seen from Diaz, though, since he's come into the side, if I had to choose.
OK.
Quick question about the players at the back that have been such assets for us, Andy Robertson, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Could they get rotated? Could they get the clock chop ahead of these?
If there was a Premier League game you think they perhaps would need a rest, you think going into Europe off the back of a busy cup run.
But it's the derby, though.
But it is a derby, and there is that added element, and for that reason I think they probably do both start. But would you be surprised if Tsimikas came in at left back just for one game? Perhaps not. But you think they're going to start at least 4 or 5 of the next 6.
OK, which have you got?
I've got Trent, and I think I'm happy with just Trent at the moment.
Right, Holly?
I've had both of them for a while, and, they've been ridiculously good. I think it's like 11 clean sheets this calendar year, 10 assists between them as well. I think right now I would have no qualms about getting both of them in for the running. Yeah.
OK, nice one. Very good. Well, Liverpool not the only ones juggling Premier League and Champions League ambitions. Man City are also back in Europe's elite competition. This week they're going to be hosting Real Madrid, which means that the scariest 2 words in FPL, apart from Vote Veghorst, Pep Roulette, are going to be rearing their ugly head again. Let's have a look at how we can best pick from Pep's players.
OK, next up, we are going to focus on Manchester City here on the FPL show. And as we did with Liverpool early on in the programme, we're going to try, this is going to be fun, and guess or see what Pep's done in the past with his team, particularly ahead of Champions League games. Now, this is the Manchester City players who were rested before Champions League knockout first legs. This is quite tricky to decipher, Holly, because when I look at this, I still don't really know which players. Sterling and Foden have been started. See, that's how confused I'm getting. Before the Champions League knockout first legs, does that make them the most reliable, or?
Well, it takes a very brave manager to think that they know what's going on in Pep Guardiola's mind. So I don't think there's enough of a pattern there to really think that we can second guess what he's going to do. But I think when we have a look at that Man City attack right now, I think De Bruyne and Foden are the ones that are really calling for investment.
Really? De Bruyne just coming back from that minor injury issue which kept him out for a game or two. Do you think that Pep might then want to rest him in the Premier League to avoid him picking up knocks for the Champions League? Or do you think it's the other way around?
I think if he's fit and available, he should start every game. He's just been in such great form this calendar year.
Right.
He's so integral to the team, again, in terms of creating chances.
But as a cautious manager, Holly, are you avoiding any of those assets because you just don't know which ones are going to get selected?
Yeah, De Bruyne and Foden would be the only ones I'd consider. Sterling, we've seen benched too many times.
Right.
Recently, we've seen on the opposite side, Mahrez and Jesus sharing minutes.
OK. What about a slightly more left-field option? I mean, not literally, but Bernardo Silva, who was on the score sheet against Brighton.
Yeah, and he played up front. He was the number 9, and we've not seen that for a few months now. Like, Foden's had that 9 spot pretty nailed, but in the last couple of weeks, we've seen De Bruyne play there, Gundogan's had a go, Bernardo a couple of times.
Right.
So, yeah, he becomes an option again. I still think Foden's the standout in the price category, and I still think if you can afford anyone, of course, KDB. Like, Pep can't afford to drop KDB. I think he can afford to bring him off early, like maybe get 60, 70 minutes when they're cruising at 3-0. You've got to start him, your best player.
And unfortunately, a lot of us managers just can't afford De Bruyne full stop. So this is why I guess these other options come in. Mahrez, who's a perennial potentially great asset to have, but I mean, people like Az, for example, say steer well clear. And Jack Grealish is another one who could fight his way into the mix.
Exactly. We've seen Mahrez flourish in the Champions League, which does make me worry about how many minutes he's going to see in the Premier League with all those other fixtures to fit in. So it's just really difficult to buy Mahrez right now. If he was guaranteed minutes, then obviously you'd go with him, but there's no guarantees with Pep.
All right. Holly, you're steering clear of these midfielders. Gianni, what's your policy?
I want in. They're scoring too many goals. They're too dangerous. They've got a title to win. They've got nice fixtures. Oh, and they've got a double coming up in the not too distant. So, yeah, I've got Cancelo. And he's a bit of an attacker himself, but I want more than just Cancelo. And one of these midfielders will be coming in my team very soon. Which one, I'm still not sure. Maybe I need another game or two. Foden against Watford, though, is tempting me. I can afford him, and I'm close.
OK, well, you mentioned him there, Joao Cancelo. Let's move on to talking about Manchester City's defence, because Cancelo has been so reliable this season, been so explosive on occasion as well. Are you worried about him potentially being rotated this weekend?
Well, Pep Guardiola's always said that he doesn't need much recovery time between fixtures. So I think if there's anyone in that back line that's going to see the consistency of minutes for the run-in across all competitions, it's going to be Cancelo.
OK, and defensively as well, in terms of players that are coming back, we've seen Nathan Ake and John Stones picked up injuries, but Ruben Diaz being back, that's a huge boost for Manchester City and another potential option for us.
Yeah, the timing's good, although he's been out 6-7 weeks, and you would wonder if perhaps, is he ready to play twice a week? I'm not so sure. So you look at the centre-back options with, injuries to Ake and Stones in the last couple of days. Laporte looks like the one that's actually playing 90 every week. So if you do want another option to Cancelo, I think you do go Laporte. And could you go both? Well, yeah, they're the best defence in the league, so why not? OK. So, Gianni, you're going with Cancelo and a midfielder who you haven't decided on yet.
He'll go Foden.
I probably will be going Foden, but I wouldn't rule out double City defence either. They're so good at the back. With
Laporte?
I definitely want more than one Man City, and I'll be getting 2 very soon.
Right, and Holly, you're going to be just...
Yeah, I've got Cancelo. I'd love to get Laporte as well, but I think if any of the other premiums in the game were to pick up an injury, De Bruyne would be straight in my team. OK. We'll be checking out the transfers that you guys are making a little bit more specifically later on, but plenty of FPL managers have already made their trades in the last few days. Let's have a look at who have been the most bought and sold so far ahead of Game Week 34.
OK, so this is the most transferred players in and out for Game Week 34. In, Mason Mount, Teemu Pukki, Timo Werner, Mo Salah, Reece James. Out, Bukayo Saka, Alexander Lacazette, Harry Kane, Matt Doherty and James Maddison. That's getting a lot of noises off you, James.
Yeah, I just brought in half those players. But anyway, never mind. All right, well, let's play a game of hold or sell. Yeah, and we'll see who's right and who's wrong. Who are we going to start with? Bukayo Saka. Holly, have you got Bukayo Saka?
Yeah, and I think he's an easy hold. I mean, obviously he...
Why are so many people getting rid?
Well, he's probably the easiest way to get to Chelsea players, and maybe a lot of managers sold him when he was out of form, supposedly, before the fixture on Wednesday, where he scored that penalty. But I think with that penalty, he's probably done enough to stay in our teams now. Right, OK. Gianni, do you have Saka?
I do, and I'm definitely holding. Right. We also know he's now on penalties if Lacazette's not on the pitch, or if Pepe's not on the pitch either. He's not usually on there. So, yeah, Saka's got pens. We thought it'd be Odegaard, and it's Saka.
There you go.
OK, well, this next player that I can't quite believe is on that list that I read out, Harry Kane. Hold or sell?
Oh, absolutely hold. Yeah, like, sure, you might want to go towards Son, but that's 2 transfers. And look, we've got 5 game weeks left, 5 free transfers. I don't think you really want to be taking too many hits. And if I'm selling Kane, I've probably got to take a hit to get Son in anyway. So I just commit to Kane and hope that he doesn't just keep getting the assists, he gets some goals too.
Right, because he hasn't actually scored a goal in 4 game weeks now. Although he has in there with the assists had 2 double-digit returns. Holly, do you have Harry?
Yeah, and again, a hold. He's been a form player in the Premier League over the last couple of months. Easy to keep hold of him for the remaining games.
OK, well, another player that wasn't on that list, but a lot of managers have been transferring him out. Philippe Coutinho. This one, for me, Jenny, is interesting. I would have maybe understood this a few game weeks ago, but is it safe to say Aston Villa's fixtures are turning a little bit for the better?
Yeah, and I think they've got a couple of doubles coming up. Not many teams left have 2 doubles, and Villa are one of those teams. It's just selling Coutinho is a very easy route to Havertz or Mount, which we can see the obvious reasons why you want to make that move. What I would say if you own Coutinho is look ahead to when you're using your chips. Many of us have got a free hit left. If you're using that free hit in 37, for example, when Coutinho has a double, you can bring him in just for that week. Therefore, selling him now isn't a bad option. I think I'd be tempted to sell depending on my chip strategy.
What do you think, Holly? Hold or sell?
Yeah, it's feast or famine with him a lot of the time. And, you know, it has been a good series of blanks now. And with those Chelsea midfielders having a double game week this week, I think you need to be short-sighted.
A quick word on James Maddison, who I think last week we were saying was absolutely the player to get in because Leicester have got these amazing fixtures. But yet there he is on the most transferred out list. Why is that, Holly?
Well, we've seen him on the bench, and the problem is that Leicester are still involved in that UEFA Europa Conference League, and for that reason, we are going to see a lot of rotation still in the Premier League over the next 3 game weeks.
Right, Brendan Rodgers making 7 changes, in fact, to his Leicester lineup for the midweek game with Newcastle, and Maddison really blanking over the double game week. Yeah. Did you have Maddison? Are you getting rid?
I didn't. I was put off by the fact I thought he would start one of the 2 games, and he did. But you could now argue he's had his rest. Okay. They still have 2 more doubles to come as well, some good fixtures. They're playing well enough. I think you probably hold Maddison, even with the distraction of Europe.
All right.
OK, well, in this next section, I'm looking forward to this section because, as I've said, I am on a wild card, which means I need space for the premiums, but I also need some budget enablers to get those premiums in. So let's now take a look at some of the best budget players in the game right now.
Let's go hunting some bargains in the FPL transfer market right now. Where are we going to start? We're going to start at Everton, actually. Surprised you there. A young fellow by the name of Anthony Gordon. He's only 4.6 million. Boom. He's got 86 points so far. He's got doubles in game week 36 and 37. Gianni?
I think it's one for a wild card. I don't think you're making transfers there, but if you're on a wild card, arguably he's the best budget midfielder in the game.
He's the best budget midfielder in the game, Kelly.
I don't have him. I need to get him in, don't I?
Well, you're on a wild card.
That's what I mean.
Holly, do you agree with, apart from the fact that they're playing Liverpool this weekend, which is a bit of a worry.
That's why we've got benches.
Yeah, that's true. What do you think, Holly?
Yeah, with those doubles coming up, he is the brightest spark in that attack right now. And, you know, he's probably one of their biggest hopes in terms of being able to stay up this season.
OK, this next player is actually the budget player that I have in my midfield at the moment on my wildcard, Jacob Ramsey. We've seen that he can score goals. He can be a bright spark in the Villa attack, Holly. And Villa's fixtures do look like getting better. 2 doubles as well. How do we feel about Ramsey?
Well, I've had Ramsey in my team for a little while, and then I sold him. And to be honest, I haven't missed him. So I think I'd rather go with a player in a team that have got something significant to play for the run-in.
Do you agree, Gianni, that there's better options, that maybe the impetus of having Champions League football, in Anthony Gordon's case, something to fight against in terms of relegation? Do we need to be picking those kind of players at this time? Yeah,
the budget midfielders are usually defensive midfielders or they're box-to-box number 8s. And Ramsey is absolutely an 8. He's in a midfield 3. Someone like Gordon is in a front 3. Very different proposition there. And you get the set-piece threat. So when you're looking at these budget players, look at where they play on the pitch. And I go after the more attacking players like Gordon.
Okay.
What about Matty Cash, who won't cost you a lot of cash. Only 5.2, so very much in our budget category. And great numbers as well. He's far and away Aston Villa's number 1 points returner in FPL. What do you think, Holly?
We're slowly chipping away with those attacking returns. The problem is we're not getting that consistency that we need when it comes to clean sheets right now from Aston Villa. So I think you're best off spending the money on the premium defenders from the premium defences where you're getting attacking returns and clean sheets.
But he's racked up so many points, 121 points so far this season. So he's really been doing the people who do have him in their teams a lot of good. He's got good fixtures coming up as well. Leicester this weekend, and Leicester maybe with their attention on UEFA, and then Norwich and Burnley after that. So potential there.
He's good value for his output, and we know Gerrard wants his fullbacks high, and he does get a huge amount of crosses in. Successful crosses do well in the bonus points, so Cash does well in bonus. He's been shooting a lot more since Gerrard's come in, so I think he's a good option. But
do you have him?
I don't, and I think I'd rather spend a little bit more. I think 5.9-ish, you get Laporte. So I'd go for a City defender for like just over $500,000 more. I think it's worth the extra.
Okay.
Yeah, because as cheap as he is, he's not super cheap, is he? Which I think also plays into our thinking. Let's stay in defence. Another option for you now, Emerson Royale at Spurs. How are you feeling about him? You're nodding along.
Yeah, I mean, he is super cheap, and he is very attacking, a bit like Gerrard. Conte wants his fullbacks even higher. These guys are front five players in a Spurs system. The wing-backs at Spurs are not defenders. They are front five players, and Royale will get attacking chances. Whether or not he gets the returns, we don't know. His final ball isn't great, but he'll get the opportunities, passes the eye test. If you're selling Doherty still, perhaps you've got Doherty who's out for the rest of the season, you could go Royale.
Yeah, that's quite a nice swap, actually, isn't it, doing Doherty to Royale? 4.5 million for a team like Spurs who are going for Champions League football. That feels like quite a nice swap or quite a nice move.
Exactly, and Spurs have been keeping a few clean sheets of late as well. And I think with Doherty out of the equation, we are going to see Emerson get those minutes from now until the end of the season as well.
OK.
Very good. Hey, continuing our budget theme now, let's have a look at some affordable forwards with favourable fixtures.
OK, so now we are looking at forwards who maybe don't cost quite as much, something that is quite useful this season, given the fact that a lot of our forwards have underperformed, fair to say?
Mine have,
Yeah, mine have. Yours have?
Yeah.
Yours have. All of our forwards have underperformed so far in FPL this season. So let's pick out some that don't cost as much, starting with Arsenal's Eddie Nketiah. What a night for him at Stamford Bridge on Wednesday, Gianni. It's just 5.4 million. He looks like he's going to start now. How can he be dropped after that performance?
I don't think he can be. And look, they've had Lacazette playing, who hasn't been playing open, hasn't been scoring open play goals. So Nketiah comes in and scores 2 open play goals. Surely he starts against United. I think that's at the Emirates, that game. And you look at that fixture and think, there isn't too many better fixtures. Like, if Nketiah wants to go up against any back line, at the moment, it's United. So I'd put him in my team if I was on a wild card. I'd genuinely consider it. It'd be very close. Will he be starting every game? Probably one bad game away from being dropped. That's the concern.
If you were free hitting, would you be as enthusiastic? Just for this game week, would you bring him in?
If I needed a budget player, yeah.
OK.
Can you tell that I'm on a wild card and James is on a free hit? Just checking for our own teams. How do you feel about Eddie Nketiah, Holly?
Yeah, I think he's a great option. Obviously, really impressed in that performance. So the fact that he got those couple of goals means that I think he should at least start that next game. And, you know, he's got a lot to do towards the end of the season if he wants to cement himself as the number 9 at Arsenal going forward in the future. So it could pay off.
Yeah, I mean, he's been looking good. He's been looking good. For a little bit more money, though, you get the even more impressive Taimur Pukki. That's right. Time to have a Pukki party once again. We've missed him in our FPL thinking, but do you know what? He's quietly been putting together the numbers. He's returned in 5 of his last 6 game weeks, and he only cost 6.0.
Yeah, and look, the pressure's off, and he's performing, and perhaps that's a common theme with Pukki, and we've seen that in years gone by. It's still backing Norwich to score goals every game.
Well, that's what he's doing, though. He's returning.
Yeah, but he won't be playing United every week. I'm just not so sure I want to go there.
Holly?
Well, we have seen some form from him. He's almost at the same levels that we saw the last time he was in the Premier League, a few games left to play, so he could have his best FPL season out of the 2 he's played. So it could be worth a punt in a position where we've not got that many great options available to us.
OK.
OK, moving on to another player. This one's a bit painful for me because I transferred him out ahead of the game week just gone, and he finally returned. Wout Weghorst, I ran out of patience. Have you run out of patience with Weghorst, Gianni?
Yeah, I was willing to sell Weghorst ahead of a Norwich fixture a couple of weeks ago. I ran out of patience. And look, he's not getting 90 minutes anymore. Burnley have got a couple of good options from the bench, like Vidra's coming on and getting minutes. J-Rod's doing well, getting more minutes than Weghorst. So for that spend, I think you sell. You know, you can get other Burnley forwards who are getting more minutes for considerably less money.
What about you when it comes to Weghorst? He has returned in this game week. Let's not forget, in Burnley's first double game week 33 fixture. Does that make him any more appealing? Should we be holding him?
I think the change in manager may benefit him a little bit, because I think without that change, he may have been on the bench for the double that we've just seen. But I still think there's probably better options in the game right now.
Another forward who's probably quite painful for you, Kelly's Emmanuel Dennis, who's not really been doing it for Watford, although he did return as well this game week. But there's only 1 goal in 8 for him. 5.8 million. Fixtures do get nicer, though.
Fixtures have been nice for a little while, though.
Right. And not as nice as...
And they've got Manchester City this weekend, let's not forget.
OK, so not that nice. And probably they're even nicer for everyone else who's actually facing Watford in
What do you
these
think of
fixtures.
Dennis, is what James is trying to say?
Well, I think he probably used up his goals in the first half of the season.
Gianni?
Why is everyone laughing at me?
I've been very surprised by him in recent weeks. He's actually caught my eye, and I've thought, oh, you actually are turning it on a little bit like Pookie. The pressure's off. Now I can go have some fun and express myself and maybe clock some returns. But you're still backing Watford to score.
If you had to pick one of these affordable forwards, who would it be, Gianni?
Dennis at a push, I guess.
Really, but you're not keen on any of them. And Holly, I bet you're not enthusiastic either.
Pookie, if I had to.
Yes, Pookie.
Nketiah.
Oh, yeah?
I forgot about Nketiah. I'd go there. The first one we spoke about.
All right, then.
I've said that as if I'm an Arsenal fan. It's not. It's just because I've got him on my wild card as well. Anyway, it's time for us to take a short break right now. But still plenty more to come on the FPL show. These guys will be answering your Twitter questions. We'll also see their teams for double game week 34. And, of course, we'll be talking who should we captain. See you in a minute.
Welcome back, everyone, to the FPL show. It's the final part where we get some big decisions from our experts, Holly and Gianni. And first of all, it's time for all the feels as we get the team reveals.
It is time to see Gianni and Holly's teams for double game week 34. We're going to kick this off with Holly's team. I'm excited by this, Holly, because I'm told you've not got any Chelsea. Should we take a look?
What?
I'd rather not look, but if we have to,
Here
we
it
will
is.
do. Yeah, so the trouble is I went triple Spurs last week, which was a disaster, but I've got absolutely no money in the bank, so I'm just having to double up on that decision to go with triple Spurs attack and stick with it, because I can't get funds out of any other player right now. So I think I'm going to roll a transfer, if I'm honest.
OK, so you haven't got any. You have got one City in there. You've got your captain's armband on Mo Salah as well. I suppose that. Did you hear his quotes, actually, after the game the other night? He kind of alluded to how much he was looking forward to the Everton game as well. Yeah,
exactly. He looks well up for that game. So triple Liverpool obviously should do well. Triple Spurs I'm a little bit worried about, because Brentford's form has been very good. I'm happy to keep Fabian Schär against Norwich away, and obviously Cancelo in there as well. Hopefully the Arsenal boys do well at home to Manchester United on current form.
All right, Holly. Let's have a look at yours, Gianni. See how radically different your selection is from Holly Shan's. Well, you've got Chelsea players for a start. Reece James and Kai Havertz as well. Strong Spurs presence. Why don't you talk us through it, actually?
Yeah, I've got Doherty on my bench, and I think I might be looking to sell him this week. And if I do, I could bring in a defender and then bench Breuer. I'm not too keen on Breuer in my starting 11. So look, my transfer this week is going to be Doherty out or Rafinha out, and I'll be bringing in either a Man City or a Chelsea midfielder or defender. So it's definitely a Man City or a Chelsea player coming in, and I've got 4 options: Mount or Foden, and then I've got Alonso or Laporte as my 2 defensive options.
All right, you've got some thinking to do.
I have, yeah. I know the teams I want to back, and look, if I bring in a Chelsea player this week, it'll probably be a City player next.
Right.
Or vice versa. They're the teams I want to target.
OK, well, the very best of luck in sorting those teams out. When's the deadline, guys?
Saturday, 11 a.m.
Bingo.
Just thought we'd get another reminder in just then. Well, now it is time for these guys to answer even more of your questions as we take a look at the tweets you've sent in this week to @officialfpl.
at official FPL for all your Twitter inquiries, and we'll pull out the best ones and try and get them answered now. We're going to begin with one from Danielle Quadwo, who asked, with the way Liverpool are scoring lots of goals, is it a good idea to double up on Salah and Mane at the expense of owning neither Kane nor Son? Ooh, would you sacrifice the Spurs to bring in both the Liverpool assets?
I personally think you need at least one Spurs attacker right now, so I wouldn't be looking to double up on the Liverpool midfield. I think you're better off doubling on Liverpool defence.
It's a no from Holly. Gianni?
Yeah, that's too big a sacrifice for me. What I would say, if you want to go double Liverpool attack, consider someone like Diaz. Sure, he won't start every game, but you wouldn't then need to sacrifice your Spurs player.
OK, next up, we've got a question about Jarrod Bowen. This is coming from Velvet Rebel Music, who says, is it time to let Bowen go? The fixtures look tough down the stretch. And, of course, West Ham still in Europa League action. How are you feeling about Jarrod Bowen, Gianni?
Yeah, I think it is time for him to go. He's still very good value, but at West Ham don't look like their focus is on the Premier League. It's not. We know they've got a cup to win in Europe. So, for me, I'd be selling Bowen and looking at the Chelsea midfielders at a similar price.
Sell for you as well? Are there a couple of nice moves, as Gianni said there, that you could get to from Jarrod Bowen?
Yeah, I think if you've got the funds to go up, he's an easy sell, but I wouldn't be downgrading him. I think he'll continue to tick over. He's still been getting returns, even though they've obviously been busy in Europe as well.
Let's have a quick question now about Aaron Ramsdale. Sammy says, should I still keep faith in Ramsdale? Holly, you've got the Arsenal goalkeeper.
Yeah, I think you might as well stick with him. And 5 game weeks to make a goalkeeper transfer doesn't really seem worth it unless you're on a wild card. I do think there would be merit for upgrading him to a premium goalkeeper, to Ederson or Mendy. But other than that, I'd just stick with him.
Jenny?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to use a transfer. You don't need good fixtures or even good form at your team for a goalkeeper to be clocking up the points. Ramsdale can still get big points by making lots of saves.
OK.
Listen up for this next one, because this might be useful for you as well. Keith has asked us, when would be the perfect time to use my triple captain chip? We realised shortly before we came on air that James still has
I've still got it.
his in his back pockets.
Yep.
It's a nice weapon, or it's a nice thing to still have at this stage of the season, isn't it, Holly? Firstly, who would you be using it? When would you? Maybe one of the doubles?
Yeah, well, we've got 3 double game weeks remaining in 34, 36 and 37. The only thing I would consider in there is if you've still got the bench boost chip, that's more likely to be a value in 36, but if not, then game week 36, you've got Liverpool that are doubling in that game week. Could be a perfect time on Mo Salah.
Is Salah with a double, is that the perfect time, do you think?
I think you probably look whenever Salah's double falls and you go, that's where I give the triple captaincy to.
All right. Let's have a look at the next question then quickly. It is from the Hayworths. Is it safe to opt out of Pep Roulette until the end of the season? It is, isn't it, Holly?
Yeah, definitely. I think you can go with the defence if you're looking at the likes of Cancelo and Laporte, but in attack, I think you can probably get away with it.
But, Jenny, who dares wins?
Absolutely. You need your slice of that cake. And look, Man City will score goals. They've got a league to win. So for me, you back one of those midfielders and you have to stick with them. You can't change them each week, because by the time you bring them out, they'll haul. So pick your midfielder, stick with them for 5 games.
OK.
Chairperson of the Phil Foden fan club was always going to say that. Asa says, between go big at the back and go big in midfield, which has higher points potential? So this is looking a little bit more at team structure, Holly.
Yeah, and I would go big at the back, double Liverpool, double Man City. Personally, I think that's going to be the way to go for the run-in.
Excellent. Very good. Well, time now to address the big captaincy question. Who is going to wear the armband?
Time for a bit of captaincy chat. As always, here on the FPL show, we have picked some options for you, but of course, you can pick whoever you would like. These are the 5 that we have pulled out. A few double game week players in Reece James and Mason Mount, West Ham at home and Manchester United away for Chelsea, Bruno Fernandes, Arsenal away and Chelsea at home, and a couple of single game week players as well. Kevin De Bruyne at home to Watford, Mo Salah at home to Everton. Who's the standout option, would you say, this week, Holly? Or isn't there one?
I think it's very open, and we've seen in recent weeks those that have gone with a single game week asset over a double game week asset haven't been punished by that. I think if you're to go with anyone from the double game week assets, it would be a Chelsea midfielder in Mount or Havertz. But I really like the look of Kevin De Bruyne and Mo Salah for their single game week fixtures as well.
Mo Salah 19 points. He was a single game weeker last time out, and we didn't really favour him for the captaincy, but look at that. He pulls out 19 points, and now he's going to be facing an Everton team who have the worst away record in the league. Liverpool, of course, have the best home record in the league, and he's really looking forward to this game. Are you looking forward to sticking the armband on him, Johnny?
I should be, but I'm still looking at the Chelsea guys. And I'm thinking, look, you get 2 bites at the cherry, 180 minutes. And look, is Salah going to get even 90 if they're 2-3-0 up? Will he come off early ahead of that Villarreal game? Maybe. Right. I just think I look at Mount and I look at Havertz and I see 180 minutes, and I think that's where I'll go.
Okay. Who is the best Chelsea option, though, to pick? Because previously in the FPL show we discussed, and there is a fair few assets there for Thomas Tuchel's side. So which one do you pick and give the armband to?
Havertz is now at his rest, so I think he's a shoo-in for both games. Look, I expect Mount to start both games, but you just don't 100% know. With Havertz, I'm pretty safe he does. There's also the penalty appeal with Havertz. If there's no Jorginho or Lukaku on the pitch, Havertz is on pens, and he's the number 9. He's a standout asset for me. But if you have Mason Mount, set-piece threat, you still go there.
Holly?
Mason Mount would be the one for me if I was going with a Chelsea midfielder this week.
OK. Well, Gianni seems to be drifting towards the Chelsea
side.
I'm pretty certain
I'll be going for a Chelsea player, probably Kai.
Holly, what's your thinking?
Well, looking through this list, there's only one player up there that I own at the moment, and that is Mo Salah. So for me, it's going to be Mo Salah.
Before we quickly go, there's one man that we haven't spoken about too much. Manchester United do have a double game week, Gianni. Is it just a no because of their patchy form?
I think so. I don't even know who you go towards. I mean, Bruno's on this list, but he's been playing so deep of late. And I look at those 2 fixtures and just can't see United scoring a huge amount of goals.
All right.
OK.
Very good. Whatever you do with your teams, make sure you get it done by 11 o'clock on Saturday morning. That is the deadline for Game Week 34. Many thanks to Gianni and Holly for being with us today, and you for tuning in. We'll be back next Thursday.
In different clothes.
Different clothes next time around. So best of luck with the weekend. We'll see you next time. Cheerio.